Welcome back to the Peaks Video Ministry, Q&A with Pastor Tim and Aaron. This week we have a question about time frames. We've all heard BC and AD, but our question from a viewer is, can you explain BCE, CE, and AD and relate those to the time frame that Jesus was on earth?
Yeah, so, first of all, they used to measure time from the reign of a certain ruler forward. You see it in the Bible, in such and such year of the reign of so and so, and that's how they would measure time. There wasn't like a time from the beginning or the end, and of course we didn't keep time in the beginning. That's where we get prehistoric, the term prehistoric. So Jesus Christ so influenced the world to every corner of the known world. Jesus Christ so influenced the world that in 525, a guy named Dionysius Exiguus came up with the BC, which is before Christ. And for some reason, he decided to use a Latin term for the time of Christ going forward. And it's Anno Domini, which is in the year of our Lord. So literally, you may have heard, an old TV show or something where someone's writing a journal, a sea captain's writing a journal. He says, in the year of our Lord. That's what it means. So AD is Anno Domini. It is in the year of our Lord, 2022. Just meaning that it is in, it's actually a quite profound statement that we are living in the time that Jesus Christ is offering grace to the world. Now, in the modern world, men have often tried to separate from Jesus. But to be honest with you, they still can't separate. Jesus is so important, they can wipe out the before Christ, and they can wipe out in the year of our Lord. But the world is so accustomed to putting everything around Christ. Whether they want to, whether they believe in him or not, they still are basing their timeline around Jesus. So we have the before Common Era, right, is now, they've decided to take Christ
BCE,
out of it.
BCE
before Common Era, and they have the ACE, which is after Common Era, which is basically before Christ and after the birth, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So that's how it relates, and I still think it's funny, even when I see BCE in Common Era, it still kind of makes me laugh, because whether they want to pay tribute to Jesus Christ or not, they could burn the books and do everything else, but someone will still ask the question, why is this 1 BCE? Why is this 2 AE? Why is this, why is what made the differentiation? And they're going to have to go back and say, there was this man, Jesus Christ, born in Nazareth, and his followers said this, and they believed this, and it so affected the world that our timeline is reflected by him now.
Yep, this reminds me of, and I'll make a plug for small groups. So if you want to visit the Peaks Church, we always encourage people to get involved in a small group. And one of our small groups did a study on Why I Believe was the name of the...
By Chip Ingram.
Yep, Chip Ingram.
Matter of fact, I have the books here, some of the books behind me.
And he posed, obviously Why I Believe, but one of the thoughts that I never even ever thought in my head was all of these different countries and rulers, no one really argued that Jesus existed.
Yeah.
Everyone's in agreement that he existed. Yeah. Anyway.
Even one better, I listened to a podcast called, I think it's Unbound. I listen to a bunch of podcasts every week about Christianity. And there was a man, he's a biblical historian, he's from Australia, and he said, if you can find me one credible professor, in Australia to be a professor is, we call it, in America, we call it everyone who is a professor, who teaches at a college, a professor. Mm-hmm. But a full professor, he said a full professor, so in the tradition of Oxford and the great colleges, right, a full professor is a little bit more. You have to have a little bit more accreditation. He said, if you can find a full professor anywhere in the world that says that Jesus Christ never walked the earth and was a real person, he said, I will eat a page out of my Bible. And that's been going on. He's had the challenge out for years. There actually is a society dedicated to finding a full professor of history that will dispute that Jesus Christ actually, they can find some philosophers that will dispute it, but not a full professor of history that will dispute that Jesus Christ walked the face of the earth.
Exactly. So hopefully that answers the question about BCE, CE, and AD. If you have any other questions, or if you want to visit the Peaks Church and get involved in a small group, please reach out. Our contact information is in the description below. We look forward to seeing you next week.